Hello team, welcome back to another Line War cast. This is your map today. You're going to notice something entirely different in that we have this new cool top-down view of games because we are casting a game in the beta of Line War right now. I'm not sure exactly when this video is going to come out, but there is a beta ongoing. It's being tested and being played at the moment. The two players today is Notorious Nubs in blue and Crimson Giant in red. There's a lot of new things in the beta. There is a balance patch that is going to be part of this next release. Not sure exactly what it's going to be, what it's going to include, but there's a lot of different quality of life updates in the game, and you'll see them here. Two docks right away from Crimson Giant, who also goes for a town and an industry for a little bit of eco at the beginning. And Notorious Nubs going for a quick city, got those 3 industries set up and now building this city. So a little bit delayed for Nubs on the production side of things, but this will give a huge economic boost once this city's online and the cranes are done. Barracks here for Nubs, who is in the central part of the map. We can go out to this big top-down view to see that Nubs really has the center. There's going to be a lot of economy for Nubs to get. One of these docks is going for a transport boat for Crimson Giant, who's probably going to immediately go across here. This is a very defensible position in the forest and the mountains. There's not really much that Nubs is going to be able to do to stop Crimson from getting on this landmass. And here goes the gas for Crimson, who also has a cruiser on the way out of the second dock and is slowly starting to cap to the left of the starting of the base. Probably going to be a little bit of a slow build up here as both players build their economies with these early eco decisions. Another barracks here for Nubs. So a lot of economy for Nubs. There's going to be a lot of infantry that's going to cap relatively quickly off of this city opener. And we'll see what Crimson's going to be able to do against this. First transport boat is out. A missile boat, it looks like, is the next boat that's going to be built for Crimson. Makes a lot of sense because the cruiser is really the best pound for pound boat, like when it comes to naval combat. So no real need to go for a destroyer. 4 infantry starting to make their way across. I assume it's across. There's fancy new hotkeys and replays that show the different lines that players are going for, and I will learn how to use this. Very excited that there's some new casting tools as part of this next release. Another barracks for Nubs, that's the 3rd barracks. And the 1st barracks for Crimson, which is going to start pumping infantry up the left-hand side of the map. And presumably Crimson's also going to go for some production on the right-hand side. Potentially very quickly here. One of the things that we see in the beta is that the energy geysers now have these fancy little energy icons above them. So it's easier to make sense of it. And if we scroll out, and you can scroll out by just hitting the scroll wheel all the way out. Very cool. Income-wise, 518 for Nubs, 423 for Crimson, who has their first missile boat finished now. Presumably just more cruiser missile boat out of these 2 docks. And really at this point, Crimson has a big head start on any navy if Nubs wants to put some docks into this water here. Barracks now from Crimson on the right-hand side to continue to cap, and 2 more barracks for Nubs. So really about the strongest eco opener you could possibly go for is what Blue is doing with all of these infantry that can cap all of these land territories. There's different things being discussed in the balance patch, and like I said, when this video comes out, maybe there's already decisions on them, but potentially going to see more water territory that are generated on maps, which will make Navy potentially more of a thing. Airport now for Nubs. The first real capable production facility that's been put down. And Crimson follows up with a 3rd industry, which sets up this town to be built into a city. Great capping from Crimson with this vacant transport boat to take this gas. So Crimson will have 2 gases. Nubs took this gas in the middle little lake as part of the territories that Blue chose before the game started. So this is potentially and presumably the gas that Nubs is going to take. And there's 2 more in the north, so both players are going to have a lot of gas. Crimson's going to be able to take this one pretty much for free. There's no way that Nubs is going to be able to contest this. And with the number of missile boats that Crimson might have, 1 airport is not going to be enough for Nubs to take this if a gas does show up. The good thing for Nubs is that this refinery is going to be so close to the land edge that potentially Blue could just put some artillery here in defensive lines and shell this thing. Factory now for Crimson on the left-hand side while continuing to go for this cruiser missile boat composition. There's no real need to have any destroyers. I was just about to say, there's no need to go for destroyers for Crimson as long as enough boats are built up so that they won't get attacked by submarines and not be able to detect it. If you have 3, I believe, but certainly 4 boats close to a submarine, they will be able to detect it. Any less, though, the submarine would be able to start attacking these boats without being seen. A destroyer grants phenomenal vision in the water and is really a sub-killer. But as long as Crimson doesn't lose these docks to the subs and then can corner these submarines, this submarine pen isn't really going to work out for Nubs. Nubs, of course, doesn't know it yet. Because if we look at Nubs' vision, this isn't, I think, given... Yeah, this is what Nubs can see. So there's different fog of war settings in replays now, thankfully, that we can see. Second submarine pen now for Nubs. We'll see what Crimson can see, and the answer is nothing as well. So these submarine pens are definitely undetected at the moment. Town now for Crimson, who continues going for this eco. And starting to break out a bit on the left. We can go top-down view. There is a city on the left-hand side that Crimson's going to be able to take. It's a relatively safe one. We can see that Crimson's starting to take some of the territories on the bottom right, but is going to run into Nubs relatively quickly. You can actually play in this view if you are in a game of Line War. You can draw commands on the screen. Of course, your units are quite small. Second barracks now for Crimson on the right-hand side. And pretty soon, Crimson's going to need to put down probably a factory to be able to push this at all, because 2 barracks won't be able to keep up with all of this production from Nubs with the support of helicopters as long as these planes don't go too close to the water, because then the missile boats will be able to reach them. Nubs is going for the gas in this little lake, like we saw, while moving their first helicopter off the airport and sending it down south. Strikers are the new plane being built for Blue, with some commandos in the top left. These barracks are all going commandos right now. And commandos are great in these big, like in the groups like this. If they get in little skirmishes with some of these infantry, they can just kill them. Factory and barracks now for Crimson on the right-hand side, which is pretty expected. First submarine is out for Nubs, but it's not really going to be that... Like, Blue cannot be happy about what they're about to see with all these boats. I mean, there's 4 up at the north now, so Crimson can kind of just go down the coast and check if there's any docks or submarine pens up here. And then slowly just blockade all these submarines from leaving. Helicopter against the cruiser. Helicopter will do relatively well against this cruiser. There's no missile boats to protect it. And lucky for Crimson, they got a destroyer, which can definitely see this submarine. It does get away, so there's going to be 1 sub in the back here for Nubs. It can technically go down in the bottom right. It's not like there's anything strategic down there. 3 missile boats race in to try to save this cruiser. I'm not sure if it will work because this helicopter... Well, the helicopter's actually landing, so this is going to get away. And now we can see that the SAMs from the missile boats are going to be able to take out this helicopter. And there's new animations when units crash. Great quality of life updates in this in this patch, this upcoming patch. Some commandos now for Crimson, so they'll have great vision to see what's in that forest. And there's still, it's not an impending, I mean, it's gonna happen, that fight on the left-hand side, but there's still a while until it will happen. Destroyer fighting the submarine. The submarine might be able to kill this destroyer. But with the help of a transport boat shooting this little machine gun, Crimson might be able to clean this up. The thing about subs is you don't want them to get loose. Submarine does go down from the depth charge that was sent out by that destroyer right before it was killed. 2 more factories on the right-hand side for Crimson, which is going to be important to start attacking through this choke. Nubs disbands this defensive line to try to save this submarine pen. This is a relatively big moment in the game. If Crimson can just destroy these 2 sub pens and then leave, there's just 2 submarines left for Blue. Nubs is trying to get another submarine pen down. Blue's probably identified that this water is important to have, or worth fighting for, worth trying to fight for. Submarine in the bottom can't be seen by these 2 missile boats as they pull back to the docks. The buildings grant vision, so these submarines would be seen, so good play from Nubs to not keep pushing in. And this is a small enough choke that these blue units are going to get distracted and try to attack these boats, and it won't be good for the infantry. They will be able to kill some boats, but it's not like a good long-term strategy, because it also thins out the amount of units that actually push into this forest. And with a even 4th factory on the way, this is going to be an enormous push from red up the right-hand side of the map. If we go top down, relatively equal on how much map both players have. This is definitely going to become a fight in the top left relatively soon. Nubs is putting down another factory in preparation, pardon me, for it. And it's a good amount of missile boats. This is a big fight. With 2 strikers, maybe Nubs can turn this fight to destroy this red navy. But there's still a number of boats that are going to be able to show up to reinforce this. Unfortunately, the submarines aren't really fighting with these things, and the 2 strikers get taken out. Helicopter comes in now. It last hits 2 of these. Holy cow. Well, there you go. Helicopter won the game. Just last hit 4 boats. 4 missiles, 4 kills. What's the deal? Left has, like, the army on the left for red is quite large. These 2 factories are going to be very important for Nubs to be able to defend this. Town on the way for Crimson, who potentially has more eco now. 1,000 eco for Crimson. 1142 for Nubs, so I'm totally wrong, but it's relatively close, and this is going to be a huge problem for Blue over time. It's 4 full factories for Red, and there's not the same number of factories for Blue that are going to be able to push units down here. It's really going to be the airports for Nubs, and seeing if they're going to be able to do enough to defend against this. If Crimson starts adding SAMs in, though, this is going to be a very deadly army. 2 docks now for Nubs, who has the 1 submarine pen on the way. Presumably, like, if Nubs can build up some cruisers, they might be able to keep these 2 docks, which could become a huge deal, even just for Nubs to start landing closer to Crimson's main base, which is relatively undefended. There's only 1 barracks on the land there. 2 fronts going on in the bottom right of the screen, and then this kind of central part. There's a lot of artillery building up for red. Nubs is starting to back up, and we might even see Nubs put down some production here. Because with 4 artillery pieces, Nubs knows there's going to be more showing up. Decent sized army for Crimson. I think Nubs is going to have a better time on the left-hand side, given how quickly these factories were set up. And if we go top-down view, Nubs is almost on the far right. Another dock somewhere. for nubs. Not really sure where that was. But it's now 3 subpens, 2 docks. No, so it's a dock for Crimson, pardon me. We're on Crimson's view. So Crimson going for 3rd dock, which is really a great play. If Crimson knows that these docks exist, and I'm not sure. Okay, so Crimson doesn't, so it's just a very fortunate play for Crimson to make sure that they're matching the number of naval producing facilities that Nubs has in the water here. A lot of submarines for Nubs, which are going to start capping all of these water territories back. There will be a naval fight at some point. And Nubs is going for 2 transport boats. Missile boats are going to show up into this little bay and be able to snipe these helicopters. Even though the helicopters are landed, the missile boats will still shoot SAMs at them. There's a debate in the Discord about whether missile boats and SAMs should be able to shoot surface-to-air missiles against helicopters that are on the ground. I have no opinion on it, but it is very fun to shoot these SAMs and move your boats and SAM units in and out of the max range to try to get the last hits on units. Like when helicopters are on the ground, you can kind of move your SAMs in, run in, try to snipe one, and then run back out. Left-hand side is starting to heat up. Nubs has gone around with this infantry force, which has some commandos. They're going to be able to disrupt this supply chain if they can get around this army and potentially cut it off. And this cruiser might be very important for Crimson because it can hug the coast and provide this army with some support. 2 more factories in the north for Nubs. It's now 5 total, and there's a second gas now for Blue. Still no real answer to how many artillery pieces there are here. The 2 helicopters are doing great. And if Crimson can get these missile boats back over to the right-hand side, it kind of guarantees that this Red Army is going to be able to push all the way to the second airport for Nubs, which is building helicopters. But first, Crimson's going to have to clear out these docks. And with this many factories, 6 total in the top left for Nubs, I think now Nubs is going to have the army advantage. Certainly on the left-hand side. Still on the right-hand side, it's a little bit of a struggle. 1 missile boat is showing up. 1 missile boat is enough to be able to deal with 1 helicopter, but not a bunch of helicopters. It's 2 strikers and 2 helicopters completed for Nubs. Rather, 3 helicopters completed for Nubs. And the time for a push is now. We also get a deeper zoom in the beta, which is absolutely wonderful. Missile boats showing up on the left-hand side of the screen, tracking these helicopters and strikers, pardon me. It's really important that these air units can continue to help out and contribute to this fight because it's such an enormous amount of artillery for Red. And it's just great positioning from this missile boat, which might get 1 more rocket off. It does not, so the striker will get home successfully. And if Crimson just positions this army a little bit to the left, close to this boat, it's such a wonderful amount of support that this 1 missile boat can provide this army. And this helicopter will certainly go down. And it does. Left-hand side of the map, this infantry army kind of does its job, which is pulls some of these units and forces a fight, which gives Nubs some cover to push to the left-hand side of the map. It's still a lot of artillery for Crimson. If Crimson were to stay in these mountain ranges, which are great defensive positions, it might become very difficult for Nubs to dislodge this. Nubs has 2 cruisers now, which can change the math of things, especially if these cruisers can just show up and start attacking docks. There's a 4th dock now for Crimson. Helicopter's doing great for now because these 3 missile boats are trying to attack the submarine pens. I don't think they can see the submarine though. Yeah, they definitely can't. So this one submarine is just going to be attacking these missile boats. Unfortunately for Nubs, some of the helicopters are going to go down in the meantime, and probably a submarine pen. Here comes this factory on the bottom right for Nubs to start handling the enormous army from Crimson in the bottom left. A little bit of a weird moment here, and there's an opportunity, I think, for Nubs to inadvertently throw away this army, because it's about to get sandwiched. All these units for Red in the mountains, you move quicker in the mountains that you control, and you, of course, move slower in the ones that you don't, so Nubs is at a little bit of a disadvantage here just on the move speed of the units through this territory since it's capped by Crimson. And it's a very good concave from Crimson right now. And at the very best, this is going to be an equal trade. This is very scary for Nubs, who puts down another factory here. Potentially even needs a third factory. There's 2 more barracks for Crimson on the right-hand side. Nubs does snipe the gas, which is relatively helpful. But even in the best case where Crimson has no more gas, it just means these boats can't move as quickly, and it's not really a game of Navy, unfortunately, at the moment. Rather, it's not like there's boats for Red that need to be making their way across the map and now they're stuck. Still a good amount of artillery for Nubs in the top left. But it's this push in the bottom that's gonna, I think, take out the rest of this army. Which will be a big deal. Nubs is starting to take economy in the top right. That's pretty safe to take. There's no way that Crimson's going to be able to get there anytime soon. And I think this is a really good play from Nubs to build this factory in the bottom right. There's still no air capability for Crimson. So if a bunch of artillery pieces get built up here for Nubs and then they start pushing across the left, it will at the very least disrupt the reinforcements that Crimson gets to push in here. Two cruisers are still doing work. They are the best pound for pound boat. So let's see if 2 missile boats and a destroyer with the help of 1 missile boat that's been dispatched can actually kill a cruiser. I think the answer is no. They might get 1 cruiser. Defender's advantage here for Crimson is big because any boat that shows up out of these docks are going to be in the fight pretty much immediately, where Crimson's boats have to take time to reinforce. But because it's 2 cruisers for Nubs, if these 2 cruisers win for Blue, Nubs might start getting enough that they can just kind of snowball and start deleting the docks, which would be big. Top left, this is going way better for Nubs than I thought it was. A tank is now in play, the first tank that we see in the game. More tanks on the way. Nubs has a lot of energy at the moment, saved up in this depot. And if we go top-down view, all the territories have been capped at this point with the exception of, you know, random little territories all over the map. And economy-wise, Crimson's at 15, and Nubs is also, I mean, pretty much at 15. So very close right now. Nubs is going to start trying to go for a landing. Crimson's putting down 2 more factories, which is a great call to keep up with the amount of factories that Blue's put down. Crimson doesn't need to see how many factories Blue has in the top left. In fact, Crimson can't see it. But Crimson can kind of tell based on the number of units that Blue is showing up with. SAMs are here now for Crimson to provide air support, or like anti-air, like further inland. The 2 destroyers for Nubs, I guess they must have been taken out, because these are the 2 fresh cruisers for Nubs, who's going to lose another sub-pen, but putting down another factory. And more eco for Blue, which I think at this point is definitely the play. It's a very close game. Good landing attempt from Nubs. Great defense from Crimson. The stream of reinforcements up the left-hand side kind of naturally defend this refinery, so Nubs is going to try to send the boats somewhere else. And commandos for Crimson going off to the right, so they're going to find this factory relatively quickly. Commandos against artillery in a straight-up fight, the commandos will get wiped, but that's only if there's enough artillery to actually spot those commandos. 2 cruisers are taking on this army. It's a relatively damaged army for Red, but still going to be a close fight. Nubs is putting down another factory. This is a very scary army, and 2 SAMs is actually like the perfect number to deal with like a few helicopters that kind of filter in. So it's actually 4 SAMs. Yeah, this is scary. Nubs might actually lose 4 factories and a barracks here. This is a really good choke to defend, but unfortunately for Nubs, there's no factory behind this choke. Close navy battle. If both teams lost all their navies, it would still favor Red, I think, just because there's 4 docks now. No submarine pens for Blue. Crimson's starting to dig in this choke. It's a very strong position, so this gas is important. With the tanks, Nubs might be able to just break through and run past here. And we'll have to look for Blue to kind of amass an army, because these defensive lines are relatively strong. More eco in the back for Crimson with a very safe gas in the bottom right, or bottom left, pardon me. And this is what I mean about the artillery pieces would just beat the commandos, but these artillery pieces cannot see the commandos. This is Nub's view. So just the sneaky folks are going to kill this factory for sure. There's only 1 more artillery piece left. It would have to stay very close to the factory in order to have the spotting. 2 more factories for Nubs. If Nubs can defend this and not lose all the factories, Nubs is in a good position. If not, it'll be a really tough. 2 cruisers and a submarine taking on a missile boat. They do get it. Here comes the Navy for Red, though. 2 submarines at the same time. Going to try to snipe some of these docks as Red's Navy moves out. And let's see how orchestrated this attack is from Nubs, who Nubs might just use these tanks to try to destroy this defensive position. Sorry, I'm messing around with the replays. Like the new keyboard keyboard shortcuts for the different vision things. Still getting a hang of it. It's quite a large army. Here comes this drop in the back from Nubs, and this might be enough. This is going to be a lot of infantry that could just kind of click on this refinery and potentially destroy it. It's a lot of artillery for Crimson. And the good thing for Red is that pretty much all these artillery pieces are going to be deployed close to all the action. They can defend this refinery while also holding back some of the push here. These 2 artillery pieces in the defensive line get improved range and better defense against artillery grenades on the other side. It's disbanded at the moment, though, because it's making all these units kind of derp to try to get into the defensive line. It'll be a big win for Nubs if they can destroy this refinery, but I don't think they're going to be able to, at least with this landing force. Maybe all of these reinforcements for Nubs are going to be able to push this in their favor, but it's still a lot of artillery pieces for Red, who continues the push on the right-hand side. And this is now a blob of artillery that's in such numbers that without a rocket or as large of an army for Blue, it'll be very difficult to destroy this. The good thing for Nubs is that they got rid of all these missile boats. So it's just these SAMs that Nubs has to deal with, which is still going to be very difficult. Crimson's doing a great job to hold on the left-hand side. The drop in the back, more pressure from Nubs. This is an important position. If this all died, it really opens up this economy to be destroyed, which would be very big, because the economy right now might start swinging in Crimson's favor, actually. So what are we at? We're at 1649 for blue and 1542 for red. But this still isn't going well. So I think what needs to happen is that Crimson needs to have a breakthrough on the left-hand side if they're going to lose all of this on the right-hand side. And we'll have to see if that happens. Very close game. One dock goes down. Unfortunately for Nubs, these two docks are also going to be destroyed at the same time. And we go top down. Nubs has way more of the map. But we'll have to see how this meat grinder goes. It'll be tough because Nubs has to move through this forest. And Crimson has the defender's advantage. Great landing here. These 4 transport boats are getting max value. If they can find a great place to land, like even here. Maybe Nubs can make a comeback? Crimson's deleting all these docks now because Crimson knows that this water, there's no more blue boats. Besides these transport boats, which don't really matter when it comes down to Navy. So Crimson can get rid of some of these docks and save the upkeep. The money they're spending on having those buildings in general. This is still tough for blue. This is great. So it stops all these reinforcements from heading up here to defend the gas for red. And there's enough artillery pieces that Nubs is... I mean, this is going to stay here for a while. So let's see if it can buy enough time for blue to push through here. They're going to get one of the gases, which is going to hit Nubs or Crimson's gas consumption a little bit, like the energy requirements that they need, and we'll see exactly how it happens. But I don't think these boats need to move as quick anymore. 2 more docks in the top for Nubs, but there's transport boats out of them. And a rocket on the way for Nubs in the forest. If we go to Nubs view, still no rocket being built as of yet. Cruiser and transport boat and another submarine pen. Defender's advantage for red really coming in clutch. And this landing army now gets cleaned up. Crimson has the whole bottom right side of the map at this point. Unfortunately, these 2 sneaky buildings for Nubs are being destroyed. But Nubs is making a lot of money. At 1583 total economy, making 595 a minute. And Crimson's now at 1700. And there's still no answer to this. The rocket would be an answer to it. It's now on the stand. 1/3 of the way done. And we'll just top down it. Blue definitely needs to build up an army on the top left if they're going to be able to push through this with all these 5 factories. This is technically owned by Nubs, so Nubs could build a dock or a submarine pen along the coast because this water territory is owned by them. I doubt that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. Very tough position for Nubs to be in. Crimson's going to be able to take all this economy back, which will make the lead for red that much greater. Crimson doesn't know about these docks yet. There's no submarines for Nubs that have gotten by those boats. Digging from Nubs here is good, but is it going to be in time? And will it matter? I mean, it's a phenomenal choke for Nubs to be defending. So at the very least, this is going to take red a long time to break through this. Maybe buy enough time for a rocket to be used here, and then for Nubs to counter push. But that was a lot of factories that were lost earlier, which is very expensive. And this push on the left is starting to kind of dry up a little bit. Nubs goes for 2 more docks. The water is relatively important here. I think also because in an ideal world, Nubs would be able to start getting a bunch of planes and then just build airstrips close to the coast and then start launching attacks. I mean, it's like obviously easier said than done, and at this point in the game, I'm not sure if it's entirely feasible. But this is quite the meat grinder. The choke is really only big enough for, what, 3 infantry units to go across it? Yeah, this is gonna be a lot of units for red. There's a lot of factories at this point. Airport now for Crimson. Nubs has a second airport on the way. But once this choke falls, which it looks like it will, because it's really only 2 barracks that are reinforcing this. I mean, there's these units, these production facilities kinda that are reinforcing, but if Crimson actually gets through here, then it is certainly game over, because this city would fall. Which would solidify the huge eco lead. 1800 now for red. 1511 for Nubs. Maybe a doom drop somewhere can fix some things. Crimson gets rid of those 2 docks to focus more on land units, presumably. Maybe even building a rocket at some point. And here comes the Navy exchange. Rocket on the way for Nubs. It's gonna hit on the left. Transport boats are fighting with the Navy. Maybe this is enough to clear. It's gonna kill a lot of 4 buildings at least. And maybe a few units. Heavily damages this factory. Still doesn't destroy this army though. And maybe if Nubs can clear this Navy and then start pushing down. I mean, Crimson is actually rebuilding a dock, so clearly Crimson is a little bit worried about losing that fight in the top left and then letting Nubs control that body of water. More factories for Nubs. If there's another rocket, I wonder how this would go. Blue's now cleaned up Red's Navy and has the Navy advantage, so can start capping these things again. All of this water territory. But I think the missing piece here is what's going to happen to this. The rocket would be in range of it. But Nubs doesn't quite have the money for it. And it probably wouldn't be able to get built because these units would rush onto it. Potentially. I don't know. Very, very cool game. First striker is now out for Crimson. There's no missile boats for Blue as of yet. So any striker that goes this way is going to be able to get great value. It's almost the full flower of Sam's. Which is definitely enough to deflect any air attacks that Nubs can send at this army. And that's it. Great game. The first beta game on the channel for this patch. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to learn more about the game, you can check out the Line War Discord. There's more details on the patch. Whole bunch of stuff there. Hope you have a wonderful evening, day, night, whatever it is. See you soon. Peace.